Parents are supposed to love their children, nurture them, and protect them from the dangers of the world. However, sometimes it is these same parents tasked with a noble duty who are the real threats to their children. The following parents killed their children in cold blood, and now they're in court facing the consequences of their heinous crimes. Pearl Fernandez,
he said, well, it's because my mom shot me in the face with a BB gun,
is being charged with first-degree murder. But what's the story? Thinking him to be gay, 8-year-old Gabriel Fernandez was ruthlessly abused and killed on May 24, 2013 by his mother Pearl Fernandez and her boyfriend Isauro Aguirre. In court, the prosecutors emphasized Gabriel's several injuries and asked for the harshest punishment possible. Among the witnesses they called was Gabriel's teacher.
Are you sure that that's what really happened? And then he did eventually tell me, and he was like really angry, and he said, well, it's because my mom shot me in the face with a BB gun.
I know I'm not alone in hoping that they experience the same abuse in their lifetime.
Now, it was the medical examiner's turn to address the court.
To make sure I got all the BBs, I had to take the body back into the x-ray room on the second day, fluoroscope the whole body to make sure there weren't any more metallic particles in the body.
A hospital doctor's child welfare worker also testified in court about what they saw.
I felt terrible. I've never seen anything in my entire career. I've never seen anything like that. I wasn't prepared. I was speechless.
I have this picture of him, of this mutilated little body, seared into my mind, and that will stay with me forever. I can't forget that.
At last, the moment had come for Gabriel's family to give their victim impact statements to the court. Gabriel's grandfather stood up.
He had swore that he was going to bring Gabriel back, and he did it. I don't know what he started talking about. We had to go to court one of these days, spring. Let him come home. And I promised that. Okay.
Other family members also addressed the court.
Gabriel had unconditional love for you, and you took advantage of that, knowing he will never turn you in.
Fernandez also had something to let off.
I want to say I'm sorry for my comments, for what I did. I want to say I'm sorry for this, what happened. I wish we were alive. Every day, I wish that I was there.
But the defense didn't see it that way.
The evidence will also show that despite the horrific abuse, Isauro never intended for Gabriel to die. He is guilty of murder, but the special circumstance alleged that he intended to kill Gabriel through the infliction of torture is not true.
Nevertheless, the jury found Pearl and her boyfriend guilty in spite of the defense's best efforts, but not before Judge George D. Melly gave the killers a piece of his mind.
The conduct was horrendous, inhumane, and nothing short of evil. It is unimaginable the pain that this child probably endured. Both in the middle of the night, you wake up and you think of the injuries that you subjected this poor young man, this poor 7-year-old, and that it tortures you.
Eventually, he read their sentences.
Defendant Pearl Cynthia Fernandez entered a plea to murder in the first degree and further admitted the special circumstance of intentional murder by torture. That for the crime of murder in the first degree committed under the special circumstance that the murder was intentional and involved the infliction of torture, defendant Isauro Aguirre shall be put to death within the walls of the California State Prison at San Quentin.
Pearl received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. They're currently serving their prison sentence after their appeals were rejected. Their reactions? Crocodile tears, if you ask me. However, Pearl's actions were shocking. They were nothing compared to the atrocities committed by Chad Doerman.
One of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see.
On June 15, 2023, Chad made an early return home. Armed with a gun, he gathered his wife and 3 sons in the main bedroom where he shot his 3 boys to death. His stepdaughter narrowly escaped the ordeal. Chad was afterwards taken into custody.
You're going to go ahead and fly whenever any that's going to start.
Get your hand on you? No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad, I ain't nothing.
He readily admitted to the atrocities, showing no remorse. Later investigations revealed that he had been preparing for this horrifying deed since October 2022.
Man, they trust more than any other person on earth, the person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. One of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see.
Now in court, Chad's heartless demeanor is too much for the prosecutor's remarks.
Man, they trust more than any other person person on earth, the person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world, he was their guardian, and he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. One of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see.
Chad's trial is set for later this year. One cannot help but wonder why a parent would kill their children. Unfortunately, he isn't the only one to commit this heinous act. This is Lori Vallow Daybell, facing murder charges.
A juror who voted to convict Lori Daybell of murdering her children is slamming the killer mom.
The murder is said to have been committed in Idaho. She is in court with her spouse, Chad Daybell, and they are both being charged with the murder of Lori's two children, 16-year-old Tyle Ryan and 7-year-old JJ Vallow.
Y'all know that I love you. I want you home.
They are additionally believed to be involved in Tammy Daybell, Chad's first wife's death. Lori was happily married to businessman Charles Vallow before chaos erupted, raising Lori's daughter Tyle from a previous marriage and adopting JJ, the grandson of Charles's sister. They appeared to be the ideal couple. JJ had autism, and Lori was said to be the perfect mother for him because she was patient. Everything was perfect so far, right? Well, things began to change in the year 2017. Lori's friends saw that she was over-immersing herself in doomsday literature. That Chad guy, with such a vivid imagination, wrote fiction about the end-of-the-world preparations, yet he and Lori clicked so well that they began producing religious podcasts together.
Living on the Edge of Heaven, where I tell more about my 2 near-death experiences and how that prompted me to write my novels.
This is where things start to get really bizarre. According to Lori's friends, she began to talk about zombies, not the brain-eating ones you see in movies, but people she believed demons had taken over their souls. She even called Charles, her husband, a demon. Charles then filed for divorce, feeling that he had had enough and also fearing for the safety of his children. Tragedy struck when Charles went to Lori's house to drop off JJ. Alex Cox, Lori's brother, shot and killed him. Lori categorically stated they heard the gunshot and claimed that it was self-defense. Things began to spiral even further out of control as Lori settled in Rexburg, Idaho, and got closer to Chad. It also just so happened that Lori's brother Alex moved into the same apartment building.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
And is he hurt or is he alive or?
Yeah, there's blood. He's not moving.
You know, no weapons? No weapons on me. All right, come on out this way. I'm gonna have you have a seat right here on the curb.
Inside is Lori Vallow's 4th husband, Charles, dead on the living room floor.
What happened today? How did it get to this? And then your niece pulls out a bat?
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close and she came out to defend my sister. Her bat.
Your niece?
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him and then he took it away. I turned around and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun.
So you went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yeah.
You always bring a gun?
I can still carry all this.
Okay, so are you... Okay, just stand over there for just a second, guys.
And then the unimaginable happened. JJ and Tyle vanished into thin air.
Please step up. These are beautiful young children.
It became evident as the investigation progressed that something sinister was afoot. Human remains were found in shallow graves on Chad's property, raising further suspicion. They found the bones of JJ and Tyle, a tragic discovery.
Were found on the property of her husband.
Lori and Chad were slapped with first-degree murder charges for the death of JJ and Tyle. Chad was also charged with Tammy's murder. As the judge hit the gavel, she declared Lori Vallow and Chad guilty of all charges.
Is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty.
Regarding Chad, he entered a not guilty plea to all charges. Doomsday parent Lori Vallow Daybell received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. She was escorted away without expressing any reaction.
She showed no reaction as she was led away.
Lori's story was complicated and her crimes were horrible. However, there are parents whose actions will shock you even more, like the case of Justin Ross Harris. This is Justin Ross Harris, who's facing charges for murder in Georgia.
Now we're starting to wonder, did Harris intend to kill Cooper? When we return.
Justin, the father of a toddler who passed away after spending many hours in a heated car, is being charged with several crimes related to the tragic event. Cooper Harris, a 22-month-old child, was left in a car in Georgia for more than 8 hours a day.
That's my patrol car. That's the vehicle I was driving that day. The blue lights, in fact, are the blue lights that I turned on when I first began driving up College Parkway.
The father went to work instead of dropping the child off at daycare, claiming that he forgot.
Finished the work day, and then as I was driving down Acres Mill, I caught a glimpse of him when I looked to my right to change lanes. I caught a glimpse of him in the back, and I thought I saw it. I thought I was seeing things.
The father found the boy in the back seat unconscious when he started driving home after work. Witnesses attempted to revive him, but it was too late. That day, the temperature in Georgia had risen to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature inside that hot car can rise to 130 or 140 degrees in a matter of hours.
There were evidence to show that he was in a vehicle that was maybe 90 degrees or 95 degrees, but less than 100. Could a person survive in that temperature in a vehicle?
Yes.
Looking at the totality of these circumstances, if Cooper Harris hypothetically was left in his vehicle at 9 o'clock in the morning and law enforcement were called sometime after 4 o'clock, is it possible he was alive around lunchtime?
If the temperature at lunch was only in the 90s, low 90s, yes.
While he cited forgetfulness, the prosecution thought otherwise, that Justin Ross Harris, the father, purposely left his son to die in the car. Furthermore, the statements he made in the interview seemed to imply the same thing.
Emergency. There's a baby on the ground.
June 18th, 2014, Vinings, Georgia. People at a shopping center watch in horror as a man pulls out a toddler's body from an SUV.
We don't know if the baby's breathing. It doesn't look like it. Do you see anybody around them? Yeah, his dad, and it was like somebody trying to give him CPR.
Scandalous information about Harris's secret life surfaced during the investigation. Evidence of extramarital affairs, incriminating text messages, and sexual contact with other women, including a 16-year-old girl, were presented by the prosecution. One of the most damaging pieces of evidence was a text Harris made expressing his wish to escape, shortly before he locked his son in the car. Investigators also discovered that Harris exchanged nude photos and had explicit conversations with several women using internet messaging apps.
How old were y'all when you met?
I was 18.
How old was he?
His 30s.
Did he have a wife?
Yes.
Did he have a kid?
Yes.
But he loved you and y'all were best friends?
Yes. Oh, we had sex.
Did he seem nervous or anything?
Not at all. We'd talk about like everyday things, and it did get sexual sometimes.
Okay. And were pictures sent back and forth? Okay, well, these are different parts of your body, private parts.
They found out that he looked up information online on things like the age of consent in Georgia and how to survive in jail. He'd even watched a video showing that temperatures can be fatally high inside a hot car. Prosecutors also claimed that Harris had gone to see prostitutes in the weeks preceding the death of his son.
Surveillance footage from Harris's workplace showed him approaching his car during lunchtime without glancing into Cooper's back seat.
Suspicions were heightened when surveillance footage from Harris's workplace revealed him approaching his car at lunchtime but never looking in the back seat. The defense made an attempt to have the scandalous online messages removed from the trial on the grounds that they had no bearing on the murder allegations. Nevertheless, the majority of their attempts proved fruitless and the evidence was allowed. He was found guilty of 8 charges, including murder with malice, child abuse, and criminal intent. Eventually, Harris received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. He would be seen crying during the proceedings even after sentencing, but I think we can all tell that these were not genuine tears. What do you think? Leave a comment down below.